Why, hello, Dan. Welcome
Hey,
back. How are you doing?
pretty good, pretty good. I'm sad we missed last week's podcast. I was in the Caribbean and couldn't be reached.
Yes. So, for our listeners, he was in the Caribbean for two cruises,
Yeah,
both with Carnival. Is that right, Dan?
yeah, they were a lot of fun. It was cool. We went to Jamaica and jumped off some waterfalls. It was a good time. What were you up to these last few weeks?
Freezing.
Yeah, of course.
We actually had a little bit of a reprieve. So, this Arctic cold front that's just been icing up all of Canada and a lot of the US left us for a few days. In fact, it warmed up just a little bit above freezing, just enough to get my car all dirty and gross. And then it
Oh no,
froze right up like 2 days later. And then,
really?
well, now the problem is if I go wash my car, then my windows freeze, my doors freeze, and I'm just gonna drive around a dirty car for a while.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, it was minus 28 this morning, Celsius, which is really close to minus 28 Fahrenheit. I think they match at minus 30, minus 31.
Yeah, I think 0 Fahrenheit's like minus 17 or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's freaking cold.
it's cold.
Even here in Los Angeles, this has been the coldest February since 1960 something.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a max of like 65 degrees and a
Yeah.
low of like 45 for the whole month. And usually it gets above 70, so it's been chilly.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your trip. What was it like? Where did you see? What was your favorite place? And was there any technology involved?
Well, I ate way too much food.
Yes.
Jamaica needs a whole lot more technology. It was just people chilling out. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like people outside on benches just relaxing everywhere you looked. And yeah, I mean, we could spruce it up with some tech. But it was good. I mean, there were so many announcements while I was gone, and I really wanted to talk about the Galaxy S10 announcement. Did you hear a
Yes.
little bit about it?
I did. I watched it. I had to watch it after the fact because I had some work meetings I had to attend. So I did some lunch and then I did some stuff afterwards. But yeah, it was everything we were expecting it to be. There were maybe a few surprises. There were some rumors that ended up becoming true. So why don't we go through some of the highlights that have to do with the S10 and all the different versions of the S10, which were all rumored and turned out to be true.
Okay.
And then we'll get into some of the other extras, like the Galaxy Buds that they announced. So, first, there are, I believe, four versions. There's the Galaxy S10, there's the S10e, the S10 Plus, and the S10 5G.
That is a
So
lot.
that is a lot of different variants in phones. Now, the 5G one, they had prototypes that were there, but they weren't working. And so I believe people are just starting now to get their hands on 5G working models. But from what I'm reading, they seem a little bit glitchy because it's not final production. But
But you'd
big,
almost want to buy the 5G model if that's where everything's going, right? It might be a little bit of a waste of $1,500 to just buy the regular S10 and then have all your friends get their 5G phones next year.
I guess it depends on how long you hold a phone for, because it looks like the infrastructure for 5G isn't necessarily going to be ready for you if you go ahead and buy the 5G now. In fact, T-Mobile had an announcement, not a good one, but they've pushed back their 5G development by about 6 months. So they were originally going to be up and running by this summer. Now it looks like they're not going to be up and running until around Christmas. And that's only in targeted locations and areas. So it's not necessarily wherever you go in the United States, you're going to instantly be on 5G. In fact, it looks like the majority of 5G won't be ready until 2022. So if you hold your phones for maybe 3 years or more, then okay, maybe the 5G variant is worth it. Or if you live in a location where you know for sure 5G will be available and your carrier will have it,
Hmm.
then it may be worth it.
How
And
much more are we talking? Do you know?
Yeah, I have the prices right here. So the difference between the S10, so just the baseline, not the budget version, that's the E, and we'll talk about that later. But it's 900 US dollars for the basic S10, not the
Okay.
budget. And then the 5G, oh, you know what? I don't have dollars here because they haven't announced it. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the S10 Plus is $1,000. So you
So
can
just a
probably
hundred extra bucks.
100 extra bucks for the S10 Plus, but it doesn't have 5G. It comes with an extra selfie camera and um, extra space. Like you can get, it goes up in price. I think that's for the 256 megabyte storage space, but you can go all the way up to a terabyte on that one, and that will be a very pricey phone.
Dang.
Yeah, so why don't we hit some of the big things that they're all gonna get, and then
Okay.
we'll get into the variants. So the number one thing that's been leaked like crazy, and it showed up, and it's beautiful, is the Infinity O screen.
Yes, it looks great.
It's beautiful, but we also had a little bit of a debate a couple of weeks ago. Is it a notch or is it not a notch? Right? And I guess people are calling it not a notch because it's not attached to the top or to the side. And it's also very minimalist. Like it's very small. So
Just a hole punch, right?
yeah, is literally what it is. It's a hole punch. And the way that they develop the notifications on the top, it really doesn't get in the way of anything. It's just right where
Mhm.
your regular notifications would be. But then I'm also thinking if you're watching a movie on your phone, I do a lot of Netflix and
Yeah.
YouTube, you'll have that hole. But depending on how you orientate your phone, it
Hmm.
may be in a location that's not very important at all, like the bottom right or however you want to set up your phone that way.
Cool.
And yeah, so that's nice. Now the screen is gorgeous. It's OLED.
Oh,
It's
nice.
quad HD. They've got more pixels per inch than any other phone out there. Of course, this is Samsung. It's their bread and butter. And of course, they've got to put it into their 10th year anniversary phone. So
But what I'm curious about is the E version that's cheaper. Does it have OLED or is that
yes, yeah,
LCD?
the E is
Really?
OLED as well. Now, the one thing the E is missing that the others, well, there's two things it's missing. Number one is that beautiful infinity screen where it's got those rounded
Oh,
edges.
so it doesn't wrap around.
It doesn't wrap around, it's just a flat screen. And it also doesn't have the next, which is bullet point, which is probably the biggest thing this phone has next to the infinity screen, is the sonic fingerprint
Oh,
reader.
so is it on the back for the E?
It's actually on the power button on the side. And
Okay.
so you can put your thumbprint on it and you just pick up your phone and boop. And I kind of like that, but then I'm sure left-handed people are just going to hate it, right? But then
Yeah.
they could pick it up with their left hand and then use their index finger. So, like figure out how to use your phone. And if you're going to buy the E, just know you don't have the Sonic fingerprint reader. And it's interesting, the reviews for the Sonic fingerprint reader, I've watched maybe half a dozen reviews. And out of the 6 or 7 I've watched, only one of them said they didn't like it and that it was only working 50% of the time. The
Really?
others said it's fast, it's great, it's way more secure than the optical fingerprint sensors that we've seen on other phones, like OnePlus
Yeah.
had theirs, Xiaomi, as well as I believe a few others have had the first version of the in-screen fingerprint reader, and this one's sonic. And just like all the leaks were saying, it uses sound waves, and the sound waves go up and they measure the depth of the ridges of your fingerprint. So it's
Cool.
kind of like 3D printing your face, like what Apple does, but it's the ridges of your fingerprint.
So no one could take like a masking tape to your fingerprint and then put it
No,
up against it? Yeah.
like in the spy movies, right?
Yeah, in
They'll
the
have to
spy
cut
movies.
your finger off and just
Ah,
like in the
okay.
spy movies. So it's a little more secure. So, anyways, I believe it is still an optical fingerprint reader on the E, on the budget version,
How
but
much
it's on
money are
the E.
you saving with the E?
Well, the E is only $750, so you're
So
saving
150.
$150. And some other things. Now, this is the neat one. It was leaked a little bit, but I wasn't sure if everybody believed it, and that is the wireless power share. Now, we've
Oh
seen
yeah.
this on one other phone. I believe it was Huawei on their P20 Pro or P30 Pro, what you do is it's the Qi charging, and you turn your phone over, and then on top of your phone, you can place another phone. And if it's got
Cool.
wireless charging, it works. And there's all kinds of videos of people charging iPhones with it.
No
And they're like,
way.
yeah, they're like, look at this. I can charge my iPhone with this phone. Come on, Apple, catch up. Like that seems to be the feature
Wow.
that's really blowing people away, because the fingerprint reader was leaked and everybody knew about it and was excited about it. The Infinity O was leaked, everybody knew about it, was excited about it. But this one is kind of the new feature that surprised everybody, and it's great to see. It's not the first time we've seen it, but once again, Samsung probably had this in development for quite a while, and they've done it right. There's other things anything that uses Qi um, wireless charging can be charged on the back of these phones.
Cool.
So some other things, they've got Bixby Routines. This is interesting because what it does is you can set up verbal commands that will do different routines, and not just verbal commands. You can, as soon as you get in your car and your phone recognizes it's connected to your car, it can go into your car mode, and you can set it up so your phone looks a certain way. It will automatically read out your text messages and your emails. So you can set up these routines. Now, Androids had apps do this ever since I first got into Android about 7 years ago. But, they were costly, they were RAM hogs. Now Samsung's building this directly in. They're calling it Bixby, and it looks interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what options you can do with that.
That'd be cool. So you could automate certain things. I like that. When you get in a car, maybe when you start jogging, you could have
Yeah,
it do something.
it will automatically open your tracking app. It will automatically be tracking your heartbeat. I mean, there's all kinds of neat things like that. Like it would open up your Spotify and your workout playlist. You can have it do all these different things. So I'd like to get my hands on it and see how that goes. And I'm hoping it comes out for other phones too. It doesn't seem to me that this has to be built into the hardware, that this is just a software feature that can go to my S9 Plus.
Cool.
So the next thing that's interesting is the cameras and
Oh
the
yeah.
DxO marks that it has. So this phone has now beat every other phone as far as the DxO marks go.
Even the iPhone 10?
Oh yeah, yeah, even the iPhone 10. So the Pixel, of course, is the best phone to get with a single camera on the back.
Right.
Now, the iPhone 10 beat the Pixel because of the dual cameras and the functionality that the dual cameras have, as far as optical zoom and bokeh effect that's not software based. But this one's beating it and also the Huawei P20 Pro had the previous score. So it was beating the iPhone 10. And so the rear score is 114, which ties the P20 Pro.
Nice.
But the selfie camera is a 96, and that's because of the two selfie cameras on the 10 Plus. And the P20 Pro only had a 75. So you take those combined scores, and now Samsung S10 is the new leader, the new ruler of cameras as far as those marks go.
Cool.
I saw a couple reviews and it was interesting. They were saying, well, here's a selfie picture from a Pixel phone, and here's a selfie picture from an iPhone 10, and here's a selfie from S10. And so they were doing all the comparisons, and really the S10 is beating them all with a few exceptions. And that one exception is that night mode on the Pixel phone
Oh yeah.
blows everything away. I mean, these cameras, just like on the S9s, they still have that aperture function where the iris of the lens will get smaller when there's more bright, and it will get bigger.
Crazy.
Like, yeah, so my S9 does it, and it's kind of gimmicky, but they still have it on the S10, and it still can't get close to the magic of night mode that's on the Pixels.
That's all
Or
software though, right? Enhancing it.
yeah, all software. So come on, guys, get working. Figure that out. And
So
then,
yeah, I was just gonna say they came out with some new earphones too, right?
They did, yeah. So they're called the Galaxy Buds. They're wireless charging. They have had Galaxy Buds before, and they were tied with their sports app, and I think it had an in-ear heart rate sensor, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
These don't have that, but they have wireless charging, which the other buds didn't have. So that's neat. You can just put them on the back of your phone and charge it up, or just on any Qi wireless charger that you've got. They have always on Bixby. So what's interesting is you can just talk and they'll listen to you. You can tap, or I think it's a tap and hold. And I was like, I'm not really excited about having Bixby on my earbuds because Bixby's just not there. It's not nearly as good as, say, Alexa or
Siri.
well, I think it's close to Siri, but Alexa and Google. So Amazon and Google by far are dominating, and some give Google the edge and some give Amazon the edge. But what's nice is you can switch it. So from what I've read, you could even have Alexa on these earbuds if that's the
Cool.
voice AI that you want to use. So you can use Android, Amazon, Apple. It's really neat. So a lot of the reviews that I was watching, it was people out there with iPhone 10s and using these earbuds because they don't like the AirPods because they hang out. They've got a little
Hmm.
dangly thing. And rumors are is that Apple's going to go to the same in-ear design that these have. And
Really, for their next ones?
yeah, so they're in-ear design. They go right in your ear. They're very minimalist. And what's really neat about it is they have two microphones in them. So
Oh,
yeah, they have an exterior microphone and then they have an interior microphone. Now the buzz around it is the interior one. It will use that microphone when you're in a very noisy space. So if you're at like the train station or airport or out for lunch, it will use the interior microphone, which is picking up things that are going on in your head. So I don't know if I totally believe it, but the reviewers say it actually works pretty good.
to cancel out the noise, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I don't think it uses noise canceling software. It's noise isolating, but it's not noise canceling, where noise canceling headphones actually create sounds that eliminate
Counters.
other sound. Yeah, counter the sounds that your ear would hear, whereas this is isolating. So people say that because these are in-ear headphones instead of like the AirPods that just sort of rest in your ears, they say they stay in your ear better, you have better bass, you don't have as much ambient noise coming in. But then some people don't like that. It can be dangerous. You're out running, you don't hear a car. You're riding a bike, you don't hear a car. And there is a function where you can actually turn on ambient noise and it will let more of the outside noise in for safety.
Okay.
So,
From
you
the
know,
outside microphone.
yeah, they've
Yeah.
got stuff like that. So,
Here's some things that I'm excited about. It sounds like it's just gonna look like an earpiece, right? Like a hearing aid.
it looks like a cool hearing aid.
And that's cool because that could take away some of the stigma for, friends of ours that are deaf that wear hearing aids. If
Yeah,
everyone starts wearing them, it's going to be cool.
it'd be
And
cool. Look at my hearing aid.
yeah, and it would be cool if they even eventually turned it into a hearing aid for the hearing impaired, right? Wouldn't that be awesome?
I can see it totally going that way. Now, these are 5 hours of talk and listen time.
How much are the iPhone's earbuds?
4. And actually, sorry, not 5 hours, they're 6 hours. So all the reviewers say they're getting 6 hours. So they get quite a bit more talk time and listening time than the AirPods.
Hmm.
The case also comes with an additional 7 hours of talk time, whereas the AirPods, I believe they have a battery big enough for 24 hours. So you get maybe 2 or 3 charge ups. At least 3 charge ups on your AirPods. So, that's a little give and take, but they're way more affordable than AirPods.
How much
So,
cheaper?
well, I believe the AirPods are 160, maybe $170. I didn't write that down, but these are 130 US dollars.
Nice. Okay, that's not too bad. And actually, that would be affordable to like maybe get someone for their birthday or Christmas, right?
Yeah, like my birthday. So
It's coming up.
it's coming up, and I've already talked to Sharon about, this is kind of what I might be interested in. They don't come out till March 9th, which is after my birthday, but that's all right. I can pre-order them and be all excited. I'm really excited about using them at the gym
Yeah.
because Bluetooth headphones, you don't have a wire that gets in the way. And, if you're on the elliptical or the treadmill and you're going and then your hand hits your cable and your phone goes flying, you're like,
Yeah.
no.
It's happened to me. Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I'm still a fan of the headphone jack. And the great thing about all these S10s, every single one of the 4 versions still has a headphone jack. Every single one of them still is waterproof.
Awesome.
So, yeah, they kept it. And I think that's
Even the cheaper ones waterproof
even
too,
the
huh?
cheaper waterproof headphone jack. All of them also have expandable memory, with the exception of the 5G one.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't put it in. Maybe it just didn't fit. Maybe they
Yeah.
were rushing the design because the technology was still being developed while they were developing this phone. But so imagine you've got the S10 Plus. You buy the one with a terabyte of internal memory, and you put another half a terabyte. Actually, I believe it will be up to 750 megabytes. I'll have to double check that. So minimum half a terabyte, up to 3/4 of a terabyte. You almost have 2 terabytes on your phone.
Dang, that's more than my computer.
Yeah.
I,
So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
somebody online was like, "Can you imagine how many Nintendo Switch games you can put on your phone?" And
Are
maybe
people
there's a
emulating Switch games
I
now?
don't know. I was wondering, have you heard about that? Are people emulating the
No.
Switch on their phones?
Last I heard you could barely emulate a Nintendo 64 game. I know you can do PlayStation, but it's been a minute
Yeah.
since I've looked into that. And we
So
also don't do illegal things, right, Matt?
two illegal things.
No, we don't do illegal things,
No,
right?
no, no, no. Of
No,
course we
we
don't.
never do
No,
that.
no,
Yeah.
no. So I read an interesting article, in just high level. They're putting Android on a Nintendo Switch.
I
So
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean they don't have a fully working version of Android. At first they just got the splash screen, but now they've got like the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, but they don't have games and apps working yet. But it's just a matter of time.
Cool. Well,
Yeah,
I think the Switch is pretty cool, and actually, it surprised me how popular it's been amongst my friends, and even online. I was seeing that it is selling like hotcakes still, which is
yeah.
great. That's great for Nintendo. In this cell phone driven world, I'm amazed and shocked that they're still relevant, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It is kind of like a little phone. It's a little phone with controllers, and it's a little phone that you hook up to your TV, and it's a lot cheaper than a phone,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's $300 Canadian, so what is that? 250, 240 US dollars,
And how
and
much is the cheapest Galaxy S10e? Is it 750? That's
750,
like
right?
double
It's
almost.
750.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Nintendo's still relevant. People love them. My youngest son is shoveling walks at minus 35 so he can get enough money.
Did you hear about that guy that made $35,000 shoveling walks last weekend?
No.
Yeah, he actually got one of those trucks. I believe he was in the Midwest, and he got one
Yeah,
of those trucks with a shovel on it.
yeah.
He was in high school, and he just went around, and people paid him to do their driveway, and he made $35,000.
Like I'm done in like 2 minutes per driveway.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, my kids went out and they knocked on doors, and we have a lot of senior citizens in our neighborhood. We call it a
Oh, nice.
newlywed, nearly dead neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
And all the seniors were like, I already pay someone to come and shovel my walks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were out for 3 hours in minus 35 and only came home with 25 bucks.
Oh, shoot.
I also think they need to raise their fees, but yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they could go. Do you guys have a Facebook community group? We
Yeah,
do.
they
And
should post
so
on that. They
they
should.
should
I didn't
post on
think
that.
of it. Yeah. 2 kids who want a Nintendo Switch.
I would pay them to come over and do some things.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the most exciting thing that happened at the Galaxy event, the new Galaxy Fold. How crazy does that look?
You know what? It looks great, Dan. We
Yeah.
we saw that prototype back in October or November. I think it was October, and it was in this big chunky case. And we're like, oh, what is this? It looks like a cube of butter that he just pulls out. And oh, cool. But this one's definitely sleeker. It's beautiful. So some of the things, I'll just go through the specs here. There's one small screen on the outside. It's a 6.4 inch. One large screen
That's
on.
the thing that
Yeah,
bothered me a little bit. Can we talk about that?
sure, let's talk about
Why
it.
didn't they just make it the whole thing? It's
Make the
it's a,
whole side. Maybe they're
yeah.
saving battery power. I don't know.
When I saw it, it's this little dinky screen, and I thought it would be cool if it was, the wraparound OLED, like the
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
that kind of bothered me about it.
I gotta admit, it's not the most beautiful design choice on that. That's for sure. And then when you open it up, it's a 7.3-inch large tablet screen, and it's beautiful. It's flat. You don't see a crease at all. I think they did a fabulous job with it. But it's got this eyebrow. It's like up in the
Oh,
top right-hand corner, they've got all these selfie cameras, and it's
okay.
like this eyebrow that's like, "Rrr," and I'm like, oh, that is a terrible notch. That
So is it when you fold it in half, is it going to be honking huge? Like
well, and
honk,
that's
honk
some
in
of
your pocket?
the people haven't really been able to hold it. They had it in like a big thing of glass at WMC, but they're saying that when it's folded, it's got the way the hinge works. There's still space on the inside, kind of like
Oh,
the Surface laptop, the
sure.
Microsoft Surface laptop. It's got that beautiful hinge, but it doesn't close flat. And
Right.
so that's one of the things people are saying about it as well. It doesn't really close flat. It still goes quite thin and fits in your pocket, but it's not as thin as they would like it to be because of the way the hinge is set up.
Maybe it would work well for someone with a purse or a messenger bag, but
Yeah.
it might be tough to put in your jeans folded up.
So it's an interesting design because they wanted to fold it closed, and we've seen three different prototypes out there for different ways of handling folding phones. So the Samsung Fold folds inwards and then has an exterior screen that you can see and use it as a phone, and then when you want a tablet, you open it up. And the advantage of that is you protect the screen on the inside.
Oh, that's true.
So that's kind of nice. But then we also have the Huawei Mate 10 or X. I think it's called the X. The Huawei Mate X is coming out this summer, and they had a prototype at WMC, and it's different. It actually folds out, so it only has one screen.
There's
So
no screen on the back?
no. So when it's closed, there's a complete wraparound screen. And depending on what side you're looking at, it knows. And so it will show your
Oh,
phone on either of those wraparound screens. So they actually call it a three phone. Um, is it a three phone? No, or two. Yeah, it folds into three phones. So it's got a large outside screen when it's closed, which is one of the exterior ones, and it's an 8-inch.
right.
And then it's got a smaller one on the back that's a 6.6-inch. Sorry, 6.6 in the front, 6.38 in the back, and when you open it up as a tablet, it's 8-inch.
That sounds better to me because then, you're always using the screens, where with the Samsung one, it's just that small dinky one, right? And there's nothing on the
Yes.
back.
So that is an advantage, right? And then they also turn off the screens that you're not looking at. So if you've got it folded up, they're not going to turn on the back screen when you're looking at the front screen. And both of these phones, so the Galaxy Fold comes with 6 cameras. So
Dang.
it has 2 selfies, 3 rear, and 1 on the cover. So that smaller, crazy looking screen that we don't like so much, it's got a selfie camera there. And then the Huawei Mate X has 4 cameras, but it's bezel-less and it has no notch. So I'm not sure how it works with selfies because you only have one screen. So it has cameras on the back, and maybe you can only take non-selfie pictures. I'm not really sure how that works. And the other thing that's interesting about the Huawei Mate X is instead of having the fold problem like the Galaxy Fold where it's got this gap in the middle, it actually has a wing on the end of it. So imagine
Yes.
if it's flat like this, and for our listeners, I'm holding my hand flat, but then it's got like this bubble. They call it a wing, and it's like this chunky part of the phone. and they call it a handle wing, and it balances out the tablet. And they say, see this chunky part, we made it ergonomical so that you can hold it and it balances out, and you don't have this slippery tablet with no bezels, right? Because how do you hold a tablet with no bezels without dropping it on the floor? So I personally think this design was set up so they could fit all the guts in it and make it
Yeah.
look super slim and sexy. And then there's kind of spinning it as, oh, it's ergonomic. But the people who have been able to hold it, they say actually it kind of works. Like you need something that you can hold on to, and it is quite well balanced.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up because when I saw them online, I thought the Huawei one looked kind of chunky and not so cool, right? Where the Samsung one, just how it bent and fit together looked a little more well thought out to me.
hmm Now, there's a really cool design that we've only seen in a leaked video. I think leaked on purpose. Can we call that leaked? But anyways, it shows the owner of Xiaomi, and he's got a double hinge. So he's got the tablet open, and then he bends both edges. So it's
Oh,
like a quarter of each side of the phone bends and flips around. So it's still an outside screen, very
got
much like
it.
Huawei's is, but then it bends into a smaller phone, and so you're watching the middle, it just goes boop, and it's smaller.
That's
So
cool. But if you flipped it around, there would be a line in the center
there'd
because
be a
it would,
line in the center, and what's
yeah,
the point? But why would you look at the back of your phone? You just want it to be smaller, right? So,
sure.
but here's the other problem. Both Huawei and Xiaomi have the exterior screen so that when you're folding, your screen's still on the outside. And they haven't been able to figure out anything with like Gorilla Glass that bends. So that's the problem they've got. It's a polymer, it's plastic. And so I see it getting scratched up. You're probably going to want to put it inside like some kind of a soft case so that when you put it in your phone, your bag, or your purse, your bag, whatever you're putting it into, it's not going to scratch it all up.
You're gonna put it in your purse, Matt?
Yes. It looks so luxurious. We should also talk about the prices.
Okay.
These are not
Is
cheap,
it
Dan.
crazy?
Yes. So,
Okay.
so you think buying a $1,100 phone is expensive,
It is.
like
It's
iPhone?
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Galaxy Fold is the cheapest
Okay. How
at
much are we talking?
1,980, so
Oh my
$1,980,
gosh.
and that's the cheapest.
Really?
Oh yes,
Oh man.
yeah. But you can order it right now, Dan. You can pre-order it, and
Okay, I'll
yeah,
just send $1,900 over there and that's it.
yeah,
It'll
plus
come right to
tax.
my door. Yeah, plus taxes.
And then the Huawei Mate 10 is
Oh my
$2,600.
gosh. That's
Yes.
insane. What is that, like 5,000 Canadian? You're never buying that, man.
Well, it's probably like 33,
I
3,400.
could buy
It's
a new car,
yeah,
lease a
my first car was
Tesla for
500 bucks.
yeah.
And of course, we don't know how much the Xiaomi phone is. We just saw a prototype, but these are expensive. And even the reviewers are saying you're not going to go buy this phone. These phones are really just showpieces that
Of what's
Samsung,
to come.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're just showing off. They're like, look what we can do. And in fact, Huawei said in their event at the World Mobile Congress, they said foldable phones are the biggest change in mobile technology since the iPhone put the internet in your pocket.
Totally.
And it's huge. Like when the iPhone went to a big screen, that was revolutionary. And Huawei saying this is the same kind of revolution. It's going to completely change the way we interact, not just with our phones, but with technology in general. So I kind of agree with them. I think there's a lot of neat things that are going to happen, but not with these phones, not with a $3,000 phone, right? The people who are going to be buying these are going to be like developers who want to figure out how to get their apps to work on these phones. It's going to be people who want to show off money, people who have like stuff to burn, and they're probably going to carry another phone anyways,
Yeah.
because I don't think it's going to be super usable. Pulling out your slippery wraparound foldable phone and
Your $2,600 foldable phone.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little gimmicky right now. But here's what I think. It bothers me that cell phones used to be a race to the bottom, with how
Yes.
cheap can we get it? And then it seems like 2 or 3 years ago, it's a race to the top. How expensive can we make them?
Well,
So
and
my
Apple's still doing that, right? They're still extremely expensive.
what I want this to do is I want them to make these the $1,000 phones and then the flagships to be like 500, 600 again, like they used to be, please.
Please. Well,
Yes.
OnePlus is still doing it. I think OnePlus is awesome. And speaking of OnePlus, they actually had a prototype, a working 5G prototype that was at WMC. And
Cool.
we did see a working prototype of the Galaxy 5G at WMC, and they displayed how quick it is, how fast it works. So far we've only seen two working 5G prototypes, Samsung and OnePlus. And for such a small upstart company that OnePlus is, that's kudos, huge kudos for them for being able to put out a working prototype like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, something else that was really cool that came out this week was the HoloLens 2. That's
Yeah.
Microsoft's augmented reality visor, and it's cool. And I even hear they have a contract with the U.S. military with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so
What are they doing with that?
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make this something where a doctor could wear it,
Mm.
somebody in the field could wear it, and it would augment what's going on. And so, say for example, you're a soldier and you're in some kind of a situation where instead of knowing where east, west, north is and where things are, it could point out the path you needed to go.
Just like
Or,
video games, right? Like the bad guy's over here, and you're like,
yes, this is the bad guy, don't shoot this person.
yeah, don't shoot this person.
But for doctors doing surgery, I mean, imagine how cool that would be.
Cut here,
Don't
not
cut the
here.
wrong leg. But I can see a lot of really cool things for it. Honestly, in real life, I don't think anyone's gonna walk around with this on. I mean, Snapchat tried to do just some glasses that videoed, but to have
Google
it to the
Lens.
point where you could walk around and play a game would be really difficult at this point. But if you're, in the medical field, or if maybe you're even an architect and you want to see your CAD file come to life,
Totally
that would
awesome.
be really cool if you were in a boardroom and everyone had them on and you could point to different parts in the 3D model. So I really like where it's going. It seems pretty expensive to me. What kind of things did you hear about it?
Well, I actually watched a review where they physically had it, they put it on, and the first thing that struck me is this is a much smaller and lighter unit than the previous one. So the previous one, if I remember right, had like a little thing that you would hook on your belt, and that was like the processor, and it would get really hot, and you had a battery, and there were all these cables, and maybe I'm not remembering that one right, but it was a huge honking helmet. You look like Darth Helmet from Spaceballs putting this thing on, right? And for those of you who remember the early 90s, or was that even 80s? So anyways, this one looked a lot smaller, and the cool thing is you could flip up the visor. And that's kind of neat because when I'm playing VR, or my kids are, they're always like ripping up the whole helmet, but the flip up visor's kind of cool. And it's really good to use with glasses. So the reviewer was wearing glasses, and he's like, "This is the first augmented reality where I can wear my glasses." So it seems pretty nice. They talk about the field of view getting a lot bigger from version one.
Right, right.
So version one had a 30-degree view. Now we're at 52 degrees. And he compared it to looking at a deck of cards. So even though you've got this visor on, the holograms only show up in a deck of cards little spot.
Right.
And he says it's like going from a deck of cards to a paperback book.
Nice.
So perhaps version 3 will be made more for the general consumer, and it will have an even bigger field of view and be even easier to use and walk around. But this one, as you mentioned, is geared towards industry and professionals and, like you said, making partnerships with the
Yeah.
military. And
Yeah, that's really surprised me that they had that contract with them, but I think it's exciting. I think you're going to see it become more and more geared towards the regular consumer over time. And
Hmm.
I mean, people love doing augmented reality. People love games where they can hold out their phone and use the camera and see something hidden or secret.
Catch a
And
Pokemon.
yes, but imagine if you could just do that with a pair of shades. You're walking
Yeah.
around West Edmonton Mall, or wherever you are. You could see things hidden in walls. You could write graffiti. It would be a lot of fun.
I saw a commercial where it was augmented reality, and I think it was like a zombie game. And so, like, the people in the commercial are holding up their phones and they're like doing actions where they're like in on the phone. It showed them holding a baseball bat hitting a zombie, but then it pans back and they're like holding the phone and going like this, like in the air. And everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And then they're running away from zombies, right? They're
I
looking
think you
behind them
might.
with their
Do
phones.
you remember when the Wii came out and it had the nunchuck, where
Yeah,
people were throwing the nunchuck at their new flat screen TVs and
and
just
smashing
ruining
it.
them? I'm
Yeah.
predicting right here today that if that starts becoming a thing, people are going to be smashing their phones.
Their $3,000 foldable phones go flying.
Yes. Yes. Well, it looks like that's all we have for today. It's great catching up with you, Matt, and hearing about all this technology. So we will hit back at you next week.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. We would love to have you subscribe. Any reviews, please leave them on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll talk at you next week.
Yeah, we like those 5-star reviews.